If you've always known things before they happened and felt the truth beneath people's words, sensed the ending before the story finished, Carl Jung would tell you this wasn't coincidence. It was your psyche speaking a language most people have forgotten. He called it intuitive perception, the ability to see through the veil of the conscious world into the patterns moving beneath. But he also warned that this gift comes with a weight few understand, because what you feel in others they can never hide. And that knowing changes everything. You've carried this your entire life. The knowing that arrives without explanation. The certainty that settles in your chest before logic can catch up. The way you feel the shift in a room before anyone speaks. Sense the lie beneath the smile. Recognize the ending long before others see it coming. And you've spent years wondering if you were imagining it. If you were reading too much into things. If your sensitivity was a flaw. If your depth was a burden you needed to learn to carry more. Quietly. But here's what no one told you. You weren't imagining anything. You were perceiving. Carl Jung dedicated much of his work to understanding this rare form of cognition, what he called intuition in its truest psychological sense. Not the vague, mystical notion popular culture has made it into, but a precise, profound function of the psyche that allows certain people to perceive the invisible patterns, the unspoken truths, the psychological undercurrents that shape reality. You are one of those people. You don't just observe the surface. You read the depths. You sense what's hidden. You feel what others work desperately to conceal. And Jung understood something crucial about this gift. It doesn't just allow you to see more clearly. It isolates you. Because when you can feel the truth people are hiding, their fear, their shadow, their unspoken pain, their silent rage, you carry a knowledge that separates you from those still living in illusion. You see through the performance. You sense the fracture beneath the smile. You know when someone is lying to themselves long before they're willing to admit it. And that knowing, that relentless, undeniable perception, becomes both your power and your loneliness. You've tried to ignore it, to turn it off, to convince yourself you're overthinking, overfeeling, overperceiving. But you can't, because this isn't something you do. It's something you are. And Jung warned that those born with this level of intuitive perception would face a specific burden. The inability to unsee what you've seen, unfeel what you've felt, or unknow what you've always known. Your intuition doesn't let you hide from truth, not in others, and especially not in yourself. But what Jung discovered about this gift goes even deeper than most people realize. In Jung's model of psychological typology, intuition is one of 4 primary cognitive functions, alongside thinking, feeling, and sensation. But intuition operates differently than the others, where thinking uses logic, feeling uses values, and sensation uses the 5 senses. Intuition bypasses all of it. It perceives directly from the unconscious. Jung described it as perception via the unconscious, the ability to grasp patterns, possibilities, and meanings that exist beneath the threshold of conscious awareness. If you're a dominant intuitive type, you don't process the world the way most people do. You don't need all the facts to understand the truth. You don't require evidence to sense what's real. You perceive the essence before the details emerge. You read energy. You feel intention. You sense the psychological architecture beneath people's words and actions. And this isn't magical thinking. It's not mysticism. It's your psyche doing what it was designed to do. Perceiving the invisible structures that govern human behavior, relationship dynamics, and emotional reality. Jung wrote, "Intuition is perception by way of the unconscious. Everything is possible, but nothing is certain." And that last part, where nothing is certain, is where the burden lies. Because your intuition shows you what's hidden, but it doesn't always show you what to do with that knowledge. You feel someone's fear, but you can't fix it. You sense the ending, but you can't stop it. You know the truth, but speaking it often makes you the villain. And so you learn to carry this knowing quietly, to hold the weight of what you perceive without always being able to act on it. Jung called this the intuitive's dilemma, seeing more than you can change. But here's where his teaching becomes essential. He also taught that intuition, when developed and trusted, becomes one of the most powerful tools for individuation, the process of becoming whole. Because intuition doesn't just perceive others. It perceives you. It shows you your own shadow, your own patterns, your own unspoken truths. And if you're brave enough to listen, if you're willing to turn that penetrating perception inward, you gain access to a form of self-knowledge most people never reach. You see yourself clearly, completely, without illusion. And that's when the real transformation begins. But there's something Jung warned about this process that almost no one talks about. Most people experience intuition as a vague sense, a fleeting feeling, a quiet hunch. But for you, it's different. Your intuition doesn't whisper, it floods. You walk into a room and feel the unspoken tension like a pressure against your chest. You sit with someone and absorb their grief, their rage, their fear, even when they're smiling. Jung called this psychic porosity, the condition of having thin or permeable boundaries between your psyche and the collective unconscious, where most people are insulated from the emotional and psychological currents around them. You're open to them. You don't just observe people's shadow. You feel it. You carry it, sometimes for hours or days after the encounter. And this is why you've always felt drained in crowds, exhausted by small talk, depleted by people who seem harmless to everyone else. Because while they're exchanging pleasantries on the surface, you're processing the psychological storm happening beneath. You're absorbing what they won't acknowledge, holding what they refuse to feel, carrying what they're too defended to name. And your nervous system registers all of it. This is not a flaw in you. It's how your psyche is structured. But Jung warned that without awareness and boundaries, this gift can become a wound. You must learn to differentiate between what is yours and what belongs to others. You must develop the capacity to perceive without absorbing, to witness without collapsing under the weight of what you see. Because your intuition is meant to guide you, not destroy you. One of the most isolating aspects of intuitive perception is the way it collapses time. You don't experience events linearly the way most people do. You sense the trajectory. You feel the pattern. You know where something is going long before it arrives. You meet someone and feel the entire arc of the relationship. In the first conversation, you sense the betrayal before the lies begin. You know the job won't work out before you even accept the offer. And when you try to explain this, when you try to warn, to prepare, to share what you're perceiving, that people dismiss you. They tell you you're being negative, paranoid, overthinking. They accuse you of creating problems where none exist. But then inevitably, what you sensed unfolds exactly as you knew it would. And still, no one remembers that you saw it coming. Jung understood this phenomenon deeply. He wrote about synchronicity, the meaningful coincidence of inner perception and outer event. Your intuition isn't predicting the future. It's reading the present so accurately that the future becomes visible. You're perceiving the psychological blueprint, the energetic signature, the pattern that, left unchanged, will manifest in a predictable way. But here's the burden Jung warned about. Knowing doesn't always mean you can change it. Sometimes you must watch as people walk toward the very outcome you tried to help them avoid. Sometimes you must let the pattern complete itself, even though you saw it from the beginning. And that powerlessness and that ache of knowing without being able to intervene is one of the deepest pains of the intuitive soul. But it also teaches you something essential. Your role is not to save people from their patterns. Your role is to remain clear in your own perception and trust what you know, even when no one else can see it yet. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes with intuitive perception. It's the loneliness of knowing what people won't admit. You feel their jealousy beneath their compliments. You sense their fear beneath their confidence. You recognize their pain beneath their performance. And because you can feel it, they unconsciously know that you can feel it. They sense that you see through the mask, that you're not fooled by the persona, that you perceive the shadow they've worked so hard to hide. And instead of feeling relieved, and instead of experiencing your perception as an invitation to be real, they feel exposed. Jung called this the threat of being known. Most people spend their entire lives constructing a false self to avoid being seen in their totality. And when someone like you comes along, someone who sees past the construction, who feels what's hidden, who knows without being told, and it destabilizes their entire psychological defense system. So they pull away, they grow cold, they create distance. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your presence makes it impossible for them to keep lying to themselves. And that's unbearable for people still committed to their illusions. This is why you've often felt rejected by people you barely know. Why friendships dissolve without explanation. Why people who seemed drawn to you suddenly turn hostile. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting the mirror you represent. Jung taught that the individuated person, the one who has done the work of integrating their shadow and becomes a living mirror for those who haven't. Your clarity reflects their confusion. Your authenticity exposes their performance. Your depth reveals their shallowness, and they can't forgive you for it. But here's what you must understand. Their resentment is not a sign that you should dim your perception. It's confirmation that you're seeing clearly. Most people with strong intuition make one critical mistake. They turn their perception outward and forget to look within. They become experts at reading others while remaining blind to themselves. But Jung was unequivocal about this. Intuition, in its highest form, must be turned inward. Because the same psyche that allows you to feel other people's hidden pain, unspoken rage, and secret fear also perceives yours. Your intuition knows when you're lying to yourself, when you're avoiding your own shadow, when you're performing instead of being real. And if you ignore that inner knowing, if you use your gift to analyze everyone else while refusing to meet your own depths, you become fragmented. You become the very thing you can sense in others, split, defended, unconscious. Jung called this the betrayal of the gift. When you use intuition to escape your own inner work, it turns against you. It becomes anxiety, hypervigilance, obsessive analysis of others to avoid facing yourself. But when you turn your intuition inward, when you allow it to show you your own patterns, your own wounds, your own shadow, it becomes the most powerful tool for transformation you will ever possess. You begin to see yourself with the same clarity you see others. You recognize your projections, your defenses, your unmet needs. And instead of running from that awareness, you meet it. You descend into your own underworld, guided by the same intuition that has always shown you the truth. And that descent, that willingness to know yourself as fully as you know others, is what Jung called individuation. It's the process of becoming whole, and it's the reason you were given this gift in the first place. If you've spent years feeling burdened by your sensitivity, exhausted by your perception, isolated by your knowing, and this is the truth you need to hear, your intuition was never meant to make life easier. It was meant to make you real. Jung taught that certain souls are born with heightened perception, not as punishment, but as initiation. You were given this gift because your psyche is strong enough to hold it, because your soul came here to do the deeper work, because you're meant to see through illusion, feel the hidden truths, and live from a place of profound authenticity. But initiation always requires sacrifice, and the sacrifice of the intuitive is this: you cannot live a shallow life. You cannot pretend. You cannot hide. You cannot numb yourself into comfort. Your intuition will not allow it. It will disrupt every false relationship, every inauthentic choice, every compromise of your true self. It will make you uncomfortable in spaces that aren't aligned with your soul. It will push you toward depth even when depth is lonely. But here's what Jung understood that changes everything. Loneliness in truth is better than connection in illusion. And the more you honor your intuition, the more you trust what you perceive, even when no one else sees it, the more you magnetize the people, experiences, and realities that match your frequency. You stop trying to fit. You stop performing. You stop betraying your knowing to belong. And you begin to live as the rare, intuitive, deeply perceptive woman you were always meant to be. not in spite of your gift, but because of it. And this is where the most profound realization emerges. Close your eyes for just a moment. Feel the weight of knowing things before they're spoken. Feel the exhaustion of carrying what others refuse to see. Feel the loneliness of perceiving truths no one else is ready to hear. And now, feel the power of it. The sacred responsibility of seeing clearly. The rare gift of feeling deeply. The quiet sovereignty of knowing, really knowing what is real. You were not given this perception by accident. You were not made sensitive as punishment. You are a woman who sees beneath the surface because your soul requires depth. And in a world built on performance and illusion, your clarity is revolutionary. Breathe into that. Here is the revelation that changes everything. When people react to your intuition, when they pull away, grow defensive, or resent your presence, then they are not reacting to you. They are reacting to what you make them feel about themselves. Your intuition doesn't just perceive their hidden truths. It activates their unconscious. Jung taught that the unconscious is always seeking to become conscious. It wants to be seen, known, integrated. And when someone with your level of perception enters another person's field, their unconscious recognizes you immediately. It knows you can see what they've been hiding. It senses you can feel what they've been avoiding. And it rises to the surface, demanding acknowledgement. But here's the paradox. While the unconscious wants to be known, the ego is terrified of being exposed. So the person experiences an internal war. Part of them is drawn to you because you see them fully. Part of them resents you because you see them fully. And often the resentment wins. They pull away. They shut down. They reject you before you can reflect back what they're not ready to face. But this is not your failure. This is the precise function of your gift. Your intuition serves as a catalyst. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything. Your presence alone disrupts the illusion. And for people ready to wake up, that disruption is a blessing. For people still committed to sleep, it's a threat. Jung called this the encounter with the self through the other. You are not just a woman with strong intuition. You are a living mirror for the unconscious. And the gift you carry, the intuition they can't hide from, is not about them. It's about you. It's about your capacity to hold truth, to remain clear, to trust your perception even when it isolates you. Because the more you honor what you know, the more you become who you were always meant to be. A woman who lives in alignment with her deepest knowing. A woman who refuses to betray her intuition to belong. A woman who sees, feels, and knows, and does not apologize for it. If you've spent your life feeling too sensitive, too aware, too burdened by perception, this is what you need to understand. You were not born with this gift by mistake. You were born with it because your soul is strong enough to carry it. Because you came here to see through illusion. Because you are meant to live at depths most people will never reach. Jung taught that individuation, the journey of becoming whole, requires the courage to see clearly, to perceive your own shadow, to face your own unconscious, to integrate what others spend their lives avoiding. And your intuition is the tool that makes this possible. It shows you the truth in others in the world, and most importantly in yourself. It does not let you hide. It does not let you pretend. It does not let you live a shallow life. And yes, that makes certain things harder. It makes small talk unbearable. It makes surface-level relationships impossible. It makes unconscious living untenable. But it also makes you real. It makes you a woman who knows herself, who trusts herself, who honors her perception even when it costs her comfort. And that rare woman is the most powerful way to live. So when people pull away because they sense you can see through them, let them. When relationships dissolve because your perception threatens their illusion, release them. When you feel alone because your knowing separates you from those still living on the surface, and trust it. Because your intuition is not leading you into isolation. It's leading you into alignment, into depth, into truth, into the life you were always meant to live. Jung warned that this gift comes with a weight, but he also promised that those who honor it become the most authentic, most integrated, most powerful versions of themselves. You are one of those women, and the world needs you to stay awake. You were never supposed to fit into spaces that require you to dim your perception. You were never meant to apologize for knowing what others refuse to see. And you were never designed to live a comfortable, shallow, unconscious life. Your intuition is not a burden. It's a birthright. And the moment you stop trying to turn it off and start trusting it completely, everything changes. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. But know this, you found this because you were ready. If this resonated, stay close.